Let's try another awkward video and see what we can do on the transplanting of water-started plants. This is a tracyi that I started by clipping a couple of the stems and putting into a test tube, and after a couple of months they do start to grow. I've got two different test tubes here, and these are my test tube babies. Bad joke. But you can see on this one, maybe you can see on this one, it has grown so much that it is hitting onto the edge of the test tube and splitting out. So I'm going to give this one a planting. I would say transplanting, but it's going into its first growth. So I've got a couple different pots here. I've got the standard grow pot, and I have one of my super cheap pots. The red ones are for college, the blue ones are now for growing. A couple of holes in there on the sides, and that is my new cheap pot. So put my mix in there, and that mix is peat, perlite, a little bit of sand. I keep this one fairly loose, and by loose I mean if I squeeze it, it's not going to clump like a pure peat mix would. The perlite and the sand will make it looser so it falls apart, and that's what I want for my drosera. I like drosera. Apparently drosera is the correct way. I won't be correct on a lot of things I do in my life. So I take my mix that I've got and I plop it in there. And I'm not going to go full because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, because these are very young and really don't have roots established yet, I'm going to take and put some sphagnum on the top, and I'm going to use that as my starting media for these things. I'll put them in that. It'll keep them moist and give them a good area to start. So now, as part of my, let me get this second one topped with the sphagnum, and now we're going to do other things here. Tilt this down, maybe not. I told you it was an awkward video. All right, so I've got my two pots here. This is one of my favorite tools. This thing is, I bought a fairy garden. It has little shovels in it, and what else did it come with? Oh, a little rake. I have no idea what to do with the little rake. I have actually used it for a couple things, and another little shovel. So as weird as a fairy garden tool set may sound, they're actually useful. So I've got my mix here with my sphagnum on top. If this had been a rooted plant, I would take and either use this side or this side, depending on the size of the plant that I'm doing. Pop this thing down in here, and that gives me my hole. But I'm not using a rooted plant, so I'm going to take my tweezers, another marvelous tool to have, and I'm going to take my long one right now, and is this going to work? Ooh, just like playing Operation when you're a kid, except that there's no buzzer. All right, so now let me separate and find out what I've got here. This one did not take. I'm going to throw it back in there just to get it out of the way. This did not take. Well, my other test tube did much better, didn't it? This one is pretty tiny, so that one's going to go back in, if I can get it in, and that will continue to grow in my test tube. So this is what I'm left with. This is tracyi. There's no roots on it really per se. Couple of starter roots. Can you see those? Can I see those? Okay, a couple of starter roots. So I'm going to take my itty bitty scissors. Everybody needs an itty bitty scissors too. Mara Lynn. Apparently a leaf blew somewhere. She's a good guard dog. She keeps us protected from bunnies. All right, so I've got my little bitty roots. I'm going to kind of work those into the sphagnum. Cover the roots with sphagnum. There. Now that sphagnum is going to keep this moist. It'll keep the roots moist. It'll give it a stability for a while. The roots then will grow into my growing mixture, the peat perlite sand mix. And so a couple of months this thing will be up of normal height, probably 6 inches. Yeah, maybe it'll take longer than a couple months. But this will do well. And so I have others to transplant, or to plant, I should say. Now, the rest of these are not quite as advanced on the height, but I'm still going to give them the same type of care. They'll all go into a pot of some type with the sphagnum on there to keep them moist, and I will mist these just to keep the sphagnum going, and I will make labels. Got to have labels for these things so you know what they are. And that is how I would do this, keeping my plants going. My actual tracyi that these came from went into my dormancy box. If you've seen that video, you may have seen the tracyi in there. As fall approaches, I do clip some of these things, keep a new growth going, just in case something happens to the ones I put in dormancy. I've always got a backup set. I do that also with my Venus flytraps. So that's my video for today. Another awkward video. And hey, there I am. Not that you wanted to see me again, but so planting from a test tube. Your information for today. I hope you learned something. Ask questions if you'd like. Hope to see you on another video. Bye.